Alright, buckle up, Buttercup, because this is just going to turn into an angry rant. This is not scripted. I have to get this off my chest. I don't have the time to invest in a good video, so I'm just gonna rant about stuff in the game that makes me angry. And I'm gonna argue for some positions that I haven't seen anyone argue for, like, ever, and it drives me up the wall because it's just gotten so much worse over the course of StarCraft 2's lifespan. At the very beginning of StarCraft 2, one of the things that they were really focused on was making sure that things were intuitive and streamlined, especially coming from Brood War, right? They were really trying to make the game more accessible. And somewhere along the way we lost this, alright? The old Nexus was simple. The Wings of Liberty Nexus was simple. You had a Nexus, it built the workers mined, and that was that. Okay, that was like most of the Nexus. But then you could be like, okay, well, it also has this other cool ability called Chrono Boost, and it also speeds up the production of things. And it gives you something to do when the probes are making. So, like, you always want to speed up the production of the workers when you're making them. At the very start of the game, you know, you can make the workers, then you can speed up the workers. Simple. That's what the Nexus did. Somewhere along the f***ing way, somebody decided, okay, that's not good enough. We have to add a recall ability that allows you to teleport units all the way across the map. Sure, it has nothing to do with workers and the economy, it has nothing to do with speeding up production, but we need a teleport ability, so we're putting it on the Nexus. Okay, well, that's fine. This Chrono Boost ability, you can, you know, I'm just explaining this to this guy. This Chrono Boost thing, you can use as many times as you want as long as you have energy. It's like, oh, sweet, so the recall ability is the same, right? If, you know, they drop my main and I'm at a position, I can recall to the main, and then if they send a drop into my NAT, I can recall into the NAT as long as I have energy, so I just have to watch my energy levels. It's like, no. You don't understand. Yeah, the energy gets taken from one Nexus, right? And you need the energy from only one Nexus to cast it, but actually the cooldown is global. You can only use it, like, once every so often. Oh. Okay, so Chrono Boost can be used anywhere you want on the map, you know, as long as it's a structure. Recall can be used anywhere on the map that you want once every so often. So what is the Nexus? It's a unit that makes the workers, that speeds up the workers and other things that are building, that teleports units across the map. And then they're like, okay, no, we're going to add an energy recharge ability, or a shield battery overcharge ability. You pick your poison. Okay, so is that like Chrono Boost, where I can just use it as long as I have energy? It's like, no, it also has a cooldown. Oh, so this one's more like Recall, because it's got a global cooldown, and I can cast it anywhere on the map. Good try, but wrong again. No, you can't cast it anywhere on the map. It can be anywhere on the map, but it has to be near a Nexus. Okay. It's just that Nexus that it's in the range of that takes the energy? It's like, no, it can be any Nexus that the energy gets taken from. It's like, okay, so as long as I have energy, I can cast it. No, it's global cooldown. It applies to all the Nexus. Okay, well, this is hard to, like, abstract to think about, but in-game, surely the UI is going to be intuitive, so I can, like, follow this, right? Also something you might want to keep track of. Because we put this range ability in, we have to, like, permanently around the Nexus have, like, these little white circled tick things. It's like, okay, so the range actor shows all the time. You can see the range the whole time, but you're saying it doesn't affect Chrono Boost, because that's global. It doesn't affect Recall, because that's also global, but it does affect energy recharge or shield battery overcharge. Like now we've got enough abilities where, like, information that's supposed to be communicated for one ability can be mistaken for another ability. Like, and there's no intuitiveness. Like, each of these abilities behaves differently. Not just, like, in effect, which is usually the part you have to remember, it's just how you cast it. So what is the Nexus? It's a unit that makes the workers, that speeds up the workers and other things that are building, that teleports units across the map, that gives things energy. Like, what does the Nexus do at this point? Does it bake bread? Like, what doesn't it do? But it gets worse than this. So much worse. Oh my god. This is the first structure of Protoss. This is the one that the first time you load in, you're like, I'm gonna play Protoss Alert. You have to learn all this goddamn stuff. The command card is filled with useless nonsense. Then you say to yourself, okay, well, I'm gonna make some army units. How do I do that? Well, there's this cool thing in Wings of Liberty. You had the Pylon and the Warp Gate. Okay, the Pylon powered the Warp Gate, and then the Warp Gate could warp in army units anywhere within the Pylons. It was a nice dependency. Warp Gate gets powered by the Pylon, and then it can warp in near the Pylon. Then we decided this wasn't good enough. We're like, no, this is too simple. What we need is, we need some areas for the warp-in to be fast, and some of them to be slow. It's like, okay, well, how do you know if it's fast or slow? Okay, well, if the pylons are next to the warp gate, then that pylon is a fast warp-in spot. But if it's not next to a warp gate, the warp gate can still warp in on it, but it's going to be slower. Okay, that's not too bad. And then I ask you the question, of course, okay, what about like a gateway? Can I warp in near a gateway if the gateway is next to a pylon? Does that create a high-powered zone? And you're like, no, it has to be a warp gate. The warp gate has to be finished. And you're like, okay, that makes sense. That's a fair rule. The structure has to be done in order to warp into it. But then you're forgetting, ladies and gentlemen, that this is too simple. We need it to be more complicated, right? We have the Nexus, and the Nexus is the unit that makes the workers, that speeds up the workers, that teleports things across the map, that recharges energy on things, and we also need the ever-important Nexus to also be a high-power zone creator. And so then you go, okay, so that's fine, because, you know, I make a warp gate, and when the warp gate finishes, then that's high-powered zone, so I just have to wait for my Nexus to finish when I'm expanding, right? No, you don't, because for some reason the Nexus provides a fast-powered zone, even when it's still in production. Okay, so let's do a recap. We have the Nexus, which makes the workers, which speeds up the workers, which teleports units across the map, which provides energy within a limited range, which also provides a high-powered zone. That's not enough, guys. We need it to be more complicated. We don't like simple things here. Why would a player ever want to learn any of this? No, instead, what we're going to do is we're going to add a mechanic to the shield battery that makes it so that if it's built within the range of a Nexus, upon completion, it will have 100 energy, but if it's built away, it will start with 50 energy. So the very first structure that Protoss players have to learn now is the structure that makes the workers, which speeds up the workers, which teleports units across the map on a global cooldown timer, which provides energy to units on a global cooldown timer, but they have to be near a Nexus, which provides fast power zones for which units to warp in, with the added advantage of kicking in while it's still under production, which also controls the starting energy of a shield battery. How many unique mechanics does one thing need to have? Okay, well, at least is all of this displayed nicely on the UI? No, it's not. Let me explain to you. If you're on low graphics and you actually look at the pylon radius indicator for its range of where you can warp in, it's fine if there's one, but if you have more than one on low graphics, it's really hard to tell what the inside of the overlapping circles is versus the outside, because when you're on high graphics, it paints the entire ground like one color, so it's always really clear whether or not you're within a warp-in zone. When you start having a whole bunch of different pylons on low graphics where some are super powered and some aren't, it's really hard to tell what is a powered zone and what's not a powered zone. And the shield battery is the same way. On low graphics, like, it's so hard to tell the difference between the blue and the green shield battery that's supposed to allow you to, during placement, determine if it's going to start with 100 energy or 50. It's just, you can't see it. How these mechanics made it into the game with the current UI, I do not know. If there was any understanding of like the ethos of the design principles of the game here, they would have said to themselves, holy crap, this is terrible. We need to either fix the UI or we can't put this mechanic in. But we've been sliding off a cliff for the last decade or so into obscurity where simplicity doesn't matter to anybody. As long as the pros are happy and the people at the top of ladder who endlessly post on Reddit are satisfied, it's good enough for me. Like, there's just such... guys... People say, well, we can't have everything in the game be simple. There has to be carve-outs. And, like, sure, but also, I feel like people have forgotten that this is, like, the most complicated genre of game ever. The game, even if everything in the game was perfectly designed to be intuitive, it is still the most complicated thing to understand. Even if it's perfectly intuitive, it's still completely unintuitive. So you can't just give up. You have to be striving for this stuff. Even now, people argue in favor of these horrible mechanics. Alright, like, another example that drives me up the wall is the Widow Mine. So the Widow Mine burrows. So you're like, okay, so it's invisible, like a burrowed unit. It's like, well, no. If it fires, it uncloaks until it reloads, and then it recloaks, even though it's burrowed the whole time. And I swear to God, and you can double check this, people are arguing that we should be making the Widow Mine be permanently cloaked upon the building of an armory, like how it used to be. What the hell is even that? It's not an upgrade. What the hell is it? When else does that happen? When does a structure grant a unit anything? What, the morphing of the Hellbat from the Hellion? Which, in my opinion, should never have been the case. The Hellion should have always been morphable to the Hellbat. Like, the Viking doesn't need an upgrade or a structure in order to morph. No other unit, with the exception of Zerg units, is like that. Like, if you need to gatekeep the power of the Hellbat, surely you could come up with something else. It's bad design. And you know what? Most of these horrible mechanics, they tend to stem from the same thing. And that's, where the balance. I didn't really plan this out, so I don't really know how to end this rant. But I guess what I'm saying is, over time, StarCraft 2 has been getting more and more complicated, and I don't feel like that complication has paid off. Like, if it was a necessary evil to better the game, I don't think the game got sufficiently better to justify it. And even now, in the most recent patch, we still see these sort of small changes that raise the complexity unnecessarily stacking up. So, for instance, the tank not being abductable by the Viper anymore. I mean, people have pointed to the Phoenix being able to pick up the siege tank still as just an example of how, like, the change is just wholly inconsistent, and, like, there's no actual design principle that's underpinning it. It's just complication for, I guess, balance sake. And in my opinion, one of the priorities of the next patch should not just be mixing up the game, but in particular, simplifying a lot of its more obscure and antiquated mechanics. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. This is OmniSkeptic signing off.